And Beau, I think we're good. Let me turn this over to you at this point.
Okay.
All right.
I forget exactly how this shares, so I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way like that.
Yeah, looks good.
Let's see. Well, there we go. That looks better. So, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. My heart's still beating a little fast from almost losing everything just before showtime, so I apologize. Thanks for coming back for those of you who did, and welcome to those of you who have not been here before. I wanted to continue my series of short stops, and these are simply mini courses, 10 minutes max, on just different ways of thinking about things that might get you on a faster track and hopefully adapting to what we are hopefully coming out of, to the new reality that we're seeing. So this is insight number 2, finding hidden capacity. And last week's insight was kind of a mind bender. It really made you think deeply about how you're really thinking about problems. So I thought I'd give everyone's brain a rest this time and talk about something that isn't quite as deep, but just as helpful, which is simple ways to communicate capacity and how to integrate that into your conversations for transformation. So I'd like to start off with Neapolitan ice cream. Now, for those of you old enough to remember what Neapolitan ice cream is, it is 3 flavors in 1 pack. We have strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate. And so for those of you who don't remember what that is, or you're not old enough, Ben & Jerry's Half-Baked series is similar, in which it takes a couple of different ice cream flavors and swirls them together. So you get more than one inside a carton. And I've always thought of continuous improvement kind of like that, because what we really have are different flavors of the same thing. So we might have lean or agile or DMAIC, and they're basically kind of in the same carton that you can choose from. And the cool thing about that is that continuous improvement and these 3 different flavors actually have one overriding theme in mind. And that's putting our capacity to better use. Now, we don't really talk about it that way, but that's what we're really trying to do, regardless of which flavor you pick up. Ultimately, what we're trying to get to is a way to make our capacity more effective and efficient for our organization. And the cool thing is that we have lots of capacity. So what are we really talking about in terms of organizational capacity? So we could be talking about food processing, or possibly some type of manufacturing, or maybe some warehousing and distribution, or a call center, or customer service, or lots of people working at desks, or some healthcare or laboratory situations, or maybe even a global supply chain. All of these things have capacity that continuous improvement wants to challenge and say, is there a better way to do this? But although we have lots of these examples of capacity and actually lots of resources in our organizations, I continually run up against this. I'm sure none of you have ever said this, but people you know have. If we only had more time, more people, more equipment, more IT support, we could just get to where we want to go. And this is the best time to build back better. This is the best time to challenge what the heck are we doing with the capacity, and then how do we actually use that as part of our conversations. So let's start a capacity play. So let's keep it simple and change the dynamic a little bit, because it doesn't matter how big your team is. It could be 5 people or a whole organization. The key is to engage them in their thought processes and help make your transformation better and align them. And a really easy way to do this is to talk about capacity in terms of goals, because capacity takes the fear out of change, at least some of the fear out of change. And to do that, simple visuals can go a long way to create this message and help communicate it. So my great visual is a bucket of capacity. This is just a capacity bucket. That's all it is. And it's the front end of your conversation. So there's lots and lots and lots of stuff that has to happen behind the scenes to make your transformation successful. But on the front end, it's very easy to talk to an organization about what the heck you're doing with your capacity. Because what we really see when we take a look at our capacity, and I just transitioned from a bucket to a stacked bar chart, which is the way I kind of figured it out a long time ago. If you look at the left side, there's good work, and that's in blue. We'd love to do good work, but we're kind of stuck doing some things that may not make so much sense, some non-value added stuff, et cetera. If we want to build back better, then what we really want to do is say, hey, we have the right amount of resources, we believe, and what we'd like to do is better work or more good work with those resources and less of the non-value add. So that's in general the concept of the communication. And I'd like to show you 3 examples of that, starting off with, hey, we need more equipment. Okay, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Let's take a look at that. So here's a manufacturing example. And on the left, this is just a generic one. On the left, they say, hey, we run 1 shift, 40 hours, and we make 200 parts in a week. Except after we make the 200 parts, we have some of the 40 hours that's actually taken up in our capacity by setup times and maintenance requests, things like that. And if we want to increase our production by 50% on a shift, then we want to make more good parts on the right. And in order to do that and stay within 40 hours, we have to be able to shrink our maintenance and our setup times, because there's no other way to do it without buying more equipment. And most of the time, we have enough equipment, we just don't have the capacity set up the right way to perform this. So that's one example. Another example is, hey, we need more physicians. Well, here we are in healthcare. This is a single client, a real one, a home hospice organization based in Baltimore. And home hospice is kind of cool because they have physicians going to individual houses. They do home visits, house visits. And because of the size of their territory and because of the terrible traffic in Baltimore, at least pre-pandemic, they could only do 3 visits per day. So when they started talking about it, said, we really would like to get to 4. I mean, it seems like it'd be a slam dunk to get to 4, but we don't know what to do. So we took a look, and in fact, they do 3 visits a day, but the rest of the 40 hours or the rest of the day is spent traveling and documenting. And so we said, well, if you want to get to 4 visits per day or 20 a week, then we have to be able to challenge that. And this is a real one. This is actually what they achieved. They achieved 4 visits a day. They took a little bit off their travel time and a whole bunch off their documentation time. So they're able to do that. Now, once again, this is just the front end of the communication. In the back, there's a bunch of stuff going on to analyze and redo these processes in order to accommodate more resources inside doing better work. So this is a healthcare example. And then the last one's, hey, we need more engineers. So this is Cessna in business jets. And in about 2004, they were coming out of a mini recession. They started selling jets really quickly again. And in case you didn't know, the outsides are all the same. The insides are all custom. Every cabin is custom to their customer. So they have lots and lots and lots of drawings to create the custom interior, and they didn't have enough people to make these drawings for the surgeon business. So when we met with them, they said, hey, we're doing X drawings per week, and we need to do at least 30% more, maybe 50% more, in order to be able to address this demand surge. And when they looked at what they were doing, they did the drawings on the left, and they also had a lot of rework and review meetings. So we said, well, listen, if you really need to improve your percentage of drawings, increase your productivity, then you need to be able to address reworking of drawings and meeting reviews. And they did. And they got about a 40% bump out of that. So these are 3 examples on how to communicate in terms of capacity. And each one of these are non-threatening. They really are. People understand that you just want to do more with what you have. So looking back, embracing a conversation on capacity is easy. It's really, really easy. It's just different language, and people embrace it better. Typically, there's always stuff going on in the background. Typically, my clients use a value stream map to support those numbers and find the opportunities and work on them. However, you can use any tool you want as long as it ties back to capacity. And this has been used as a way in my clients to both discuss a goal and to trigger real analysis behind it. So, closing out insight number 2, extra capacity has always been hiding right in front of us. Discussing and visualizing it is a great way. Keeping it in simple terms is a great way. That means everyone gets to understand it. And there's lots of work in the trenches behind the scenes that can be rolled up, communicated, and visualized simply. Now, that's the end of the actual nudge. But I want to get back to last week. Remember Sherlock? I'd like you to scratch your head for a while, put on the hat, and say, what do I understand about how I use our capacity, about how we use our capacity today, and the resource gaps that challenge your improvement efforts? So with that in mind, I have an assignment. Grab one of your efforts, don't care what it is. Then visualize your current state in the capacity bucket and break it down into 3 to 6 categories. Don't get too wild, just 3 to 6 is fine. Then visualize your future state first by filling in your goal. So if you want 40% more drawings, make the bar 40% higher. If you want 33% more productivity in physicians, make the bar 33% higher. And stuff is going to spill out the top. Hey, that's your opportunity. So that's what you get to work on, the stuff spilling out the top. And then once you do that, if you have some questions, bring them along to office hours on Friday. In office hours, same as last week, we'll have some interactive discussions. We'll talk about progress, maybe share some examples, and do some networking. And that's what Friday's about. And finally, I need to tee up next Monday. It's a little bit more of a brain teaser than communications. It'll be kind of a little bit harder to get your head around and work on. How do the best leaders avoid being overstretched? And I have another hint. It's not what they do, it's what they don't do. Eric?
All right, Beau, thank you for sharing that. Well, that was another good little Thinkinar that we've got in the can.